Everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and whichever way you choose to support the show, I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I'm your host, Emily Hayden, and I had to ask you guys, did you know that I'm going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah? That's right. Salt Lake City, Utah, April 22nd through the 23rd with the Transcend team. I hope to see you guys there. Did you also know that I'm hosting a retreat in Houston, Texas? May 12th through the 15th. It is in Houston, Texas. I actually did a whole podcast on it. So if you guys didn't hear that, I'll link it down below. I'll also link the link where you guys can purchase tickets down below as well. So I would love to have you guys. Everybody is welcome. Details are in those links below. Now, before we dive into today's show, I just had to share something that I've been doing recently, which has really greatly impacted my life, and that is cold plunging. I've been cold plunging every single day since getting my cold plunge, and it's been for the last 10 days without missing a day. 2 immediate takeaways that I have for you guys. Number 1, everybody talks about embracing the uncomfortable parts of life and learning to surrender to what you can't control. But this is a very tangible way to practice that on a daily basis. And I'm finding that there's a lot of power in consistent practice of this. The second takeaway is that it's pretty easy to do something that sucks every once in a while. It's kind of like you're like, okay, I know I should do something that sucks, that's challenging, push myself out of my comfort zone. So you go and you do it and you check it off the list, and then it's like months before you do it again. But consistency is everything. And I'm gaining a lot of strength and a lot of mental fortitude from doing this. I'm learning how to very quickly shut off the chatter, shut off the voice inside of my head that tries to chime in and wants to complain and make excuses and justify why I don't have to do the hard thing. But the highest version of me is going to battle every single day against that voice. And so far, I'm winning. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you guys what is cold plunging, how to cold plunge, different modalities that are available to you, the benefits of cold plunging, both physical and mental, and the power in doing the hard things. So for today's conversation, I figured that I would bring on a cold plunge expert. He's actually the co-founder of Plunge. He's also the founder of Capital Floats. Today we have Ryan Duey. Ryan, welcome to today's show.
Awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, okay, let's dive right in. How long ago did you have your first plunge, and what got you into cold plunging in the first place?
I think my first intention, growing up, played sports. I'd get in like an ice bath and do that, but it wasn't like I was cold plunging, if that makes sense. It was like just to get in there and suffer. I think my first plunge, this whole concept was brought on to me from the Vice documentary with Wim Hof I saw it back in 2015. That's when it kind of was like, whoa, cold exposure, this is a real thing. There's like actual magic behind this. So I had my first one I was just hitting the river in the Sacramento region. I'm up in Northern California. So I'd hit that in the wintertime. And I think that was my first one back, 2015. And then started doing it. We had a local bathhouse in Sacramento that had a cold plunge, so I was going there multiple times a week. Wasn't until we launched Plunge and actually had a plunge at my house that I've been able to incorporate, like actually do it every day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, can you explain a little bit why you doing like a cold bath in athletics is not the same as cold plunging? What's the difference? Because a lot of listeners are probably listening like, isn't that the same? They're both cold. What's the difference?
I think it's more the mindset. Like they're the same. It's cold water. You're getting your body into it. I think it's the intention that you're getting into it for. As athletes, we have a lot of athletes that use our tubs now, and they're like, dude, I used to do this, I do this all the time, or I do this all the time, but it was a totally different mindset. I was getting in there just to suffer post game, just to my coach wanted me to get in there. And now with cold plunging, we're learning there's so many more benefits than just post-workout recovery. So it's the big difference is a mindset and actually building like a practice around it and learning to suffer. It's such a it's a big word, but just learning to get into it and actually adapt quicker to it and find ways to find enjoyment in the actual process of getting into cold water. I know you're starting to do it now,
Mm-hmm.
so you probably have similar experiences with it.
Yeah, I shared the other day on my stories how, I've been cold plunging every day and it's been going pretty well, but I had a day where mentally I was just off. I was dealing with a lot of different things on my plate and I just mentally wasn't in a great place. So then when I went to go plunge, it was like 10 times harder than normal. And I never actually settled into it. I always settle into it and I get into this really peaceful, spot. And I never reach that the full 3 minutes. So it really showed me how impactful your mindset is, and how important it is to really work on that mindset. And for me, I think next time I have a hard mental day, my measure of progress is going to be, am I able to handle that cold plunge better? And we're talking about cold plunging, but you and I both know after like doing this for a while, it actually just helps you to relate to stress in a different kind of way. And I think that's one way that cold plunging really impacts, your life in general. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize at the beginning is that, yeah, we're cold plunging, but this is really giving us this like tangible experience of practicing being in really uncomfortable situations and having to surrender to what it is that we can't control.
It's real insightful that you said that of like difficult days, you're more challenged in the plunge. I totally get that. Like when I'm,
Mm-hmm.
something with the company's super challenging, or I get in an argument with my girlfriend, it's like I get in the plunge and it's like that much more like I want to get out quicker. I never
Mm-hmm.
quite settle in. My mind's running all over. It's like it's the same exact temperature, but the whole experience is that much more intense and just, flighty. I want to get out. I can't adapt to the situation as quick.
Yeah. And I know breathing is a really important, part of plunging. So do you have something you do before you get in the plunge? Do you have a certain method of breathing once you're in the plunge? What does your breath work look like?
Yeah. So for me, my morning consists of first thing is 3 rounds of a Wim Hof style breathing. So I do that and then I immediately go and get into the plunge. So for me, I'd kind of already gone through my breath work to kind of stabilize myself. And then when I get into the plunge,
Mm.
my process is I like to get in and dunk my whole head underwater first. And I feel like when
Whew.
I come out, it's almost it is a paradox. It sounds much harder, but it makes it easier.
Mm.
It's like I shock my whole system so much, and then I come out and there's a warmth to it, and I can settle in a lot quicker. And
Mm.
then from a breath standpoint, try and do my exhale twice as long as my inhale, with the whole goal of a full breath getting towards, if you were going to measure it like per minute,
Mm.
the goal would be on the really low heart rate end, about 5 breaths per minute up to 8 to 10 breaths per minute.
Mm.
It's kind of like what I like to look at it as. So it's
Mm.
so about half the length on the inhale, and then the exhale is really where I try and settle in, almost like stretching. You want to breathe into your stretch.
Mm.
You want to breathe into the plunge, settle in, and then during that process, you can bring awareness to where you're holding tension,
Mm.
actually in the body, into my hips, into my arms, into my back. Where am I tight? Just
Mm.
kind of letting myself release and surrender into the water.
Yeah, and I love that you say that because I notice sometimes I feel like I'm relaxed and peaceful, and then I think the thought just relax or release tension, and I realize that my legs are like this, and I'm like, oh, I can calm down now. I can relax. I can let go a little bit, And it's funny. I remember that one of the first times that I plunged recently, which was like it was later part of last year for the first time in forever. And this is so dumb, but I went in there and I was like, Sahara Desert, right? I'm like telling myself that it's not cold. In essence, I'm resisting the reality of what is. And in that resistance, it made it so much harder. And so then I realized like the key is actually to like accept the truth of what's happening. Like, yes, this is cold and it's okay that it's cold. And I'm actually just going to surrender into that. And when I was able to make that mental switch, it was a lot easier. But I look back and laugh so hard now because I'm sitting there like Sahara Desert. And I'm like, that is not going to work.
Well, it's funny. I do that. I can't say I do it every morning, but the mornings I'm most resistant, I'll just say I'm gonna heat this shit up. Like I'm gonna get in there and heat it up, and it gets me
Nice.
into the water. But to your point, it's like there is a point where it's like I need to surrender to this.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of the mindset just to get me in. Like we were going back on IG the other day of just
Hmm.
like get in, don't think about it.
Yep.
And it's either like I'll say that, don't think about it, or I get like really worked up and like I'm gonna heat this up. And those are the things that get me in. And
Yep.
then I gotta release that. And I actually have to get into the breath and actually surrender to the water.
Yeah, one thing that helps me too, especially because I actually like to cold plunge like later part of the day. I use it as like a way to get a second day out of the same day. And I also really enjoy sunshine to warm me up afterwards. I do like a little meditation in the sunshine. So for me with the cold plunge experience, like I really want that to be a part of it. And I can't do that in the morning because I get up way too early and it's super dark out. So yeah, so I'll tell myself, I'm like, look, it is 3 minutes of your day. Just shut up and go do it. It'll be over before you even know it, you know? And I
Well,
like make myself get into that. And then once I'm there, sometimes I'm like, I kind of want to stay. Like, this is kind of nice and I'm already here and I feel good. Like I want to stay a little longer. Do you ever experience that where you finally get in and then you actually end up enjoying it more than the resistance you were feeling?
absolutely. I mean, it's especially post workout. Like, I get in
Oh
my
yeah.
body, I already have like a high core body temperature or a heated core body temperature. So getting in there, it's almost like a candy. Like I get in and it's like, difficult to start and then settle in. And that's pretty typical. I mean, it's kind of, whether it's 45 seconds or you count it through breaths as well, there is a threshold that your body gets in and it starts to really adapt and acclimate to it.
Hmm.
And then you it's not a numbing that takes place. It's still very cold, but that initial shock is stabilized.
Hmm.
And like you said, it's like you can just go and you can ride that. And so it's really for anyone starting out and trying it out, know that like the first 10 breaths are going to be challenging. And that's what's beautiful about it. Every single time you're going to get a challenged, out of the gate. But if you get through that, you will acclimate and it's that much easier to stay in. You will hit a pot spot if you're going for super long times that your body's going to tell you to get back out.
Hmm.
But there is that beautiful spot of about 45 seconds in, 1 minute in, that your body really starts to stabilize and you can go a little longer in there.
Yeah, it definitely just it takes a lot to get to that point. You know, oftentimes people get in 20, 30 seconds in, they're like, I can't do it anymore. And it's like if
Mhm.
you can actually get yourself past that, your body would settle and it wouldn't feel as cold or you wouldn't feel like you're suffering as much. It's just getting past that initial shock of it all. Okay, so you watch this documentary, you go and
Yeah.
you jump inside of a cold ass river, but
Yep.
doing that and then making it a daily practice and then deciding to become an entrepreneur and launch your own business with it. I mean, those are completely different things. Why were you so passionate about this that you decided to co-found a business and a brand about this? What made it such a fire under your belt?
Yeah. So my background prior to this was founded a sensory deprivation center, flotation tank center here in the Northern California region. So that was my background. I was already in holistic wellness and cold plunging was a part. It was more of a passion. It was something I was doing. Friends, we would do it all the time. We would, whether they had chest freezers or we were getting in the rivers together, we put groups together. It was something that we did. It was a part of my life, but it wasn't like a vision to go found this company and create a cold plunge and put it on the market.
Mhm.
It really birthed out of COVID, for us, for Mike Garrett, who's my co-founder.
Mhm.
We we have really funny backgrounds where he owns multiple float tank centers as well in San Francisco. We are not business partners through that, but we just became really good friends through that. And it was comical. We were some of the only owners in Northern California. And it was like, yeah, he owns a float tank center. I own float tank centers. COVID hits. We're both in California. Our business is shut down. So that
Wow.
was where it really, we had time. And he just happened to move to the Sacramento region out of the Bay Area at that time, which was planned prior to COVID. He ends up in Sacramento. We have some time on our hands. He's the engineer mind, so he started building this unit in his garage, and so this was something we were super into, and we were like, let's do this, man. Let's not that we were starting out and envisioning this company that shipped, now we have thousands of units all over the world. And that wasn't our plan. It was like, let's spend our time. Let's do something with this time that we have.
Mhm.
And it literally started with us emailing our customer databases from our float centers and saying, hey, we're building these in Mike's garage. We're going to build 20 of these. Who wants one? And we'll hand deliver them. We'll deliver to your house. And, we were hoping it might catch on and there was something there. And maybe it becomes a new side project that we do, but it really took off very quickly. Out of the garage. We were on, we made some good decisions early out of the gate on, our web traffic and our brand name so we were high ranking on Google super quick. So people were calling us when it was like Mike and I in a garage, and people all over the country like, oh yeah, they thought we were like this massive company. And it was like, no, like if you saw what's in this garage right now, it's like me and this dude trying to cut PVC pipes and
That's
plumb these
awesome.
units. And anyways, so it really took off. So that now has become, our full thing. And, we're not as involved with the float centers anymore. So it really, we were passionate about it. We have a vision to get these. We want these to be as normal as coffee. We want people to have everyone in their home, or at least have access to one. So that's our vision. That's what we're trying to get to. But out of the gate, it was much simpler. It was, yeah, let's build these. There's nothing really on the market. That was the other thing that got us into it, is what was on the market at the time was about twice the price point of what our current one is. And we weren't going to do it unless we could keep it at this price point. And so that was what was interesting to us. Once we realized, man, we're really proud of this unit. It's at a price that we feel really, really confident with. We feel is more affordable than what was out there. Let's do it. And then it just kind of, the market spoke for us, and it was like, oh, we got no option except just to keep going into this company.
That's
so it's been
awesome.
Yeah. So it was, there, we felt there was the product fit at the market at the time, but I can't say we were as smart to know that it was really going to take off to the level that it has taken off.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. And after, having it for as long as I have and the little bit of practice I've done with it, I see the benefits that I've had in my mental strength and my confidence. People ask all the time, okay, how do you build confidence? And one of the easiest ways is to keep your promises to yourself, because then you trust yourself, right? So even something as simple as, I'm going to do this hard thing every single day, and making yourself keep that promise, the amount of trust, the amount of confidence, the amount of determination that it builds inside of you is something that I feel people don't really get to practice in other areas of their life. Like, everyone listening right now, when's the last time that you practiced this intentional fortitude and commitment to yourself, even in something so small as, okay, for 3 minutes every single day, I'm going to cold plunge, right? A lot of people aren't practicing that level of commitment. So they think that they lack discipline. They think they lack determination. You don't lack it. You just haven't practiced it and built it inside of your life and inside of your character. Like, all these things can be built. I come from the, professional athlete realm, and people think that I am just a different level of determination and focus and these things. And I'm like, no, I've practiced them tangibly through different methods in my life for a long time, very consistently over a long period of time, right? So I think this is cool because it really gives people a tangible experience every single day to build such incredible character traits inside of yourself. So I want to get a little bit into the specifics. Have you found a kind of like your favorite way to plunge in regards to time spent in the cold, and also the temperature that you keep it at? And do you have any recommendations for people listening?
Yeah, for me, it's morning, and based off right off of what you said there, it's like the day can get squirrely if I let it go. The longer I don't do it in the day, the more excuses and the more things can build up from me getting in. So I've learned for myself, it's got to be my first thing. And there's major benefits to that as well. Sometimes in the morning, I'm lethargic. It accelerates my morning tenfold. I get in there, I spend, 3 minutes in the cold plunge, and it's the ROI, back to your point there of like the fortitude and like building the discipline. It's like, cold plunging is not the silver bullet. There's so many other things you can do, and it's a tool. It's one piece to the puzzle. But I have yet to find an ROI on something that makes the contrast from 3 minutes prior to 3 minutes after. I just haven't found it yet. And there's so many, and that's a beautiful part to it. Some things are beautiful because they take a lot longer, and you got to commit to it over a period of time. But a cold plunge, you give yourself 3 minutes in there, you will feel incredible getting out. You will have a whole new perspective. Your mood will be shifted. You're going to move quicker. You're going to be more clear. Those are just on the outside. That's actually just in the felt sense that's going to be happening. So For me, that's why I do it first thing in the morning. I feel like it compounds my day. So and then if I with workouts, if I'm working out at my house, I'll get in the cold plunge right after. But at the gym, I'll just do like cold showers there. I like that to kind of bring my core body temperature back down.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone starting out, I recommend, let's say if you got a plunge, you can actually set the temperature, the temps there, 55, 60 degrees. That's where I would say start your temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it there, play the long game. I always liken it to the gym. You wouldn't go, if you haven't been working out, you wouldn't go to the gym and do some crazy hit workout that's maximizing putting the most weight on and thinking you're going to show up the next day. No, you're going to burn yourself out. You're done.
Unless you're
But
me. I may have done this with cold plunging.
It's very common. And so it's playing that long game of what are you going to get back in tomorrow? What's enough that's going to take you to your edge, that you felt challenged, at the gym. You got in there, you kind of got back into your body, move some weights. You're going to feel sore the next day, but you're good enough to get back in. Mm-hmm. That's cold plunging. And then from there, it's like this beautiful practice of getting to know your body and actually listening to yourself, as opposed to some protocol that's out there that Plunge is telling you, or you hear on this podcast from me. It's like, listen to you. Mm-hmm. What is that temperature for yourself? And over time, you're going to find it. And you're going to, I'm going to lower it 2 degrees today. Mm-hmm. I'll lower it 2 degrees. I'm going to go an extra 10 breaths today. Like, just build that, play the super long game. This is not some end space that we get to, that you're a cold plunge master.
Yeah.
It's just it's a lifelong practice that you're going to incorporate. And that's the beauty of having the plunge, because you have that there in the temperature. Other sides to it. Not everyone has a plunge. Mm-hmm. What can you do? Cold showers is a great practice. We have a shower, you can get in. It's cold. I mean, each region's a little different. There's seasonality to it, but it's a start. You get in there and you get used to getting your breath taken away. Like, that's the beauty of it. You get this manufactured environment to go like lose your breath. And how are you going to control your breath during that sensation? Losing your breath, it's really just an onset of, your adrenaline spiking, cortisol going up. You get this environment. And from there, it's like, it's a safe space to actually work on controlling your breath in a highly stressed out situation. So cold showers are a great start. It's different. It's not full submersion into the body. It's going to be more of it's going to elevate the mood. You're going to get that resilience. You practice the discipline. Those are all going to come from it. And it's a great start. And then from there, it's, everyone's different. Some people, depending the region you're in, if you have natural bodies of water, those to me are always the most fun and the coolest to get in. Mm-hmm. Especially right now in the US, a lot of people have access to some cold water. So, even if you're on the West Coast, Pacific Ocean's there, and then East Coast, obviously cold, Midwest, so you could find a natural body of water and just, build a practice out of it. Whether it's like setting in stone, it's like 1 day a week I'm going to get in, finding consistency. And that to me is the most important of how you build the longevity and the play the long game with it.
I think that's such a beautiful explanation. And I agree. I think it's so important to kind of ask yourself, what is my intention with this? And realizing that it's your practice. It's not Cold Plunge's practice. It's not Emily's practice. It's your individual practice. So ask yourself, like, what do I want out of this? And simply seek to make progress, even just by 1% every single day. So let's say you're listening to this, you're like, okay, I'm going to try the cold shower because that's all that I have. And you get in the cold shower and you freak out and you don't even stay in there for 20 seconds. That's okay. That's day one. So mark it off as day one. And day two, see if you can do another 20 seconds and control your breathing a little bit better, right? So always looking for those small ways to improve. You're never a failure. There's not a one size fits all. Really look at this from an open perspective, an open mindset, and gain what you need from it every single day. I do have a question for you. This is a personal question that I've been experiencing, and I don't know if this is normal. I don't know if it's way too cold at first or what, but I'm getting like an intense brain freeze sometimes, like when I get in, and I'm not dunking my head. I get into like my neck, but sometimes it's kind of painful at times, like an intense brain freeze / like headache. And I'm like, is it my breathing? Is it an actual brain freeze? I don't know. Have you heard of that?
I mean, I get the brain freeze when I go under and like hold under for a period of time. I don't have the medical answer of what's happening there.
Right.
I'm kind of a sicko. Like I like the feeling. I like this like brain, like the added
Yeah.
layer of the pain that's coming into it. So I do know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes are you getting the top of your neck in right
Yeah,
here?
I am.
Yeah. I mean that vagal nerve spot right here, that's a big sensational point. So
Okay.
that's probably what's shooting up there. So you want to back it off and go a little lower, unless it might be your body adapting to it. But I mean, the brain freeze is definitely, yeah, it could be a shock to the head, and
Yeah.
it's I've heard it before. So you're not out of the ordinary
Okay.
in that happening.
What do you keep your temperature at for your cold plunge personally?
Well, it's a constant battle in our house with my girlfriend because she wants it a little higher. I
Uh-huh.
want it a little lower. So right now we're doing like a 30-day plunge challenge with Plunge. You,
Hmm.
so she's doing it with me, and so we have ours right now at about 48 degrees.
Okay.
That's where we keep it. Which is it's a great intermediate spot for both of us. It
Hmm.
gets her in, and for me, it's still like, even if I was on my terms, I'd put it to 45, 46. That's where I'm kind of
Cool.
at with it. And um, yeah, I mean, it's different. Like the 39, that's kind of where arcs can get down to. A lot of people like to get into the 30s. It definitely makes a difference. Every degree that you're going down at that point, you will
Hmm.
notice it and your body will notice it.
Do you know how much, like, and I don't know how much research has been on, done on this, but is there, like, do you know of the research between, what the most effective degree and time under the cold is? For example, if I'm going 3 minutes and I go 4, is it really more beneficial? And is there a point where it's like actually not beneficial and you're just kind of doing it out of ego? Do you know
Yeah,
that?
I mean, the Wim Hof instructors that I've worked with and that have put on courses, and they always say like 2 to 3 minutes. Three
Okay.
minutes is kind of the number, and they at that point they're like, there's not much tangible benefit after that point.
Hmm.
I think each body is going to be unique, each body type. What your experience is in there. You do, even though it's hard every time, your body will adapt to the cold. So there is ways to kind of, maybe you need to like go a little longer or make intervals changes in it. Sometimes you even take a little break. I've taken like a week off and just kind of gotten out of the cold and not had the cold in there and gotten back in. It's my body, it got cold again.
Yeah.
The shock was there. So I don't think to your question, I don't think there's a specific temperature
Hmm.
that there has been shown benefits, and this is on Wim's site. 60 and below, you are going to get benefits from it. So to me, I'm always like, start in those realms
Hmm.
and just kind of get to know your body. Like, we've been so taught, and your podcast's awesome about this, of like getting people to like listen to themselves and really lean into what works for them. And I think there's so much out there of like, oh, this is how it should be. And cold plunge, I think, is just a relationship with your own body. You're
Hmm.
getting in there, you're learning how to listen to the subtle cues of your breath, of the tension, of the mental chatter that can take place in there. It's a 3-minute personal experience that you get to learn kind of what works for you.
Hmm.
And then from there, you get to evaluate and adjust accordingly. And there's a lot of ways to do it.
I love that you say that it's like this individual relationship with yourself. I like to have an affirmation when I'm in the cold plunge. So the other day, my affirmation was just very simple. It was, I love you. Right. And
Mm.
as I was experiencing some really uncomfortable feelings and the, mental stress I was under, and I was breathing really difficult, I was just saying, hey, like, it's okay. I love you. Right. And being able to like have that moment with myself, because I think we're in such a, it's such a fast-paced society where we're handling all these things with business and personal, and we can be on the go and 24/7 wired like crazy. Sometimes we never really practice that stillness, and we never check in with ourselves to realize what's happening with our central nervous system, what's happening emotionally. So for me, it definitely has been such a beautiful just kind of experience with myself, and it really gives a clear picture of where I'm at personally, where, throughout my whole day, sometimes I'm not taking time to check in with myself like that. So it's definitely, I have experience with what you just said. It's been a really beautiful journey of me with myself, me extending love to myself, me reminding myself that self-love truly is choosing to do the hard thing that is good for you. So I think it really is such a beautiful personal development tool that I've really been enjoying. Have you done hot and cold therapy together? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? I know some people use saunas, some people use the hot tub. What are your thoughts and experience on it?
I love it. I love it more from just the feeling.
Hmm.
Like that's more of like my I have a sauna. Don't use it as often, but my favorite contrast is going cold to steam room and
Oh,
being in that
interesting.
environment, and like 2 minutes into a steam room after a cold plunge or a real nice long cold shower is just like there's a level of presence that
Mm,
I get that I just don't get from many other modalities combined together.
mm,
So I absolutely love it. It's definitely a more of a, for anyone doing it, it's it's a recovery, like it falls in that category, but it's an active recovery. Like your body is going through some major stress. If you're the cold plunge and a sauna or any sort of heat exposure are both are going to be, but you combine them, it's a massive metabolic workout for your body. So just for anyone knowing that, like, you know prep accordingly. If you're doing a couple sets of transitioning between hot and cold, you're going to be it's a calorie crunch. You're probably going to come out feeling relaxed and eventually right after that pretty tired.
mhm.
So yeah, I think it's an awesome active recovery day. In your
Yeah.
days you're not lifting or you're not going for a long run or maybe after a long run or whatever doing
Mhm.
that. But I love it.
Yeah, so my experience with it is I've done the infrared sauna combined with the plunge. So I do like 20 minutes in the sauna, 3 in the plunge, and then I do that a total of 3 times, ending on the cold. And I remember the first time after I did that, I literally felt like I was floating. Like I just felt my body felt like high. It felt so good. And my recovery was amazing. So I actually have a sauna that's being delivered. It doesn't come until June, and I cannot wait for it so that I can have my longer recovery days. I'll probably do that like twice a week in addition to the daily plunging as well. So I'm
Really,
excited.
I'm excited for you to
Yeah.
have that on demand and be able to do the contrast between the two.
Yeah, yeah, I think it'll be great. And I train really hard. I train 2 to 3 times a day sometimes. So it's good for me to have this kind of recovery in my life. I think everyone can benefit from it, but especially athletes, or I have a lot of bodybuilders that listen to this. Oh my gosh. People usually do not give enough attention to their recovery. And I think it's so important. Even like, I'm usually pretty good about it, but yesterday was a rest day for me. And it was kind of a lazy rest day. I didn't do my stretching. I didn't do my foam rolling. And this morning at jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, I was so stiff and felt so horrible that I was like, okay, I will not have a rest day like that again. It has to be an intentional rest day, getting my mobility in, because how you do your rest day truly does set you up for training the rest of the week. And if you're like me and you love your training, you have to make sure that you set yourself up for success going into
What do
that
you do
week.
for, what do you do for your rest day?
So a good rest day to me would be going for a walk to like get blood flow going, and then doing a full yoga session, just kind of like a self-paced stretching session, and then foam rolling, and then taking a nap, eating my meals consistently, which I didn't eat my meals consistently yesterday. It was a little off. And then hydration and making sure I'm getting my full gallon of water in. When I do that, I will feel amazing the next day. And then obviously when my sauna gets here, I'll do the sauna and the plunge. And the
Mhm.
plunge is just daily. But yeah, that's a good rest day for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Okay. Can we get into? I know we kind of briefly talked about it, but can you just hit some of your favorite physical benefits of cold plunging, and then also mental benefits of cold plunging? Maybe like your top 2 to 3 favorite of both.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, it's the magic is learning to nervous system regulation. Like that is kind of to me it's the piece that's kind of the foundation to it all, and we touched on it earlier. It's a manufactured, it's an environment that you get into that it's gonna stress you out. Like that's the point of it. It is a stressor. It's like going to the gym, you're stressing your muscles out to come back stronger. So you're getting in there and you're stressing your nervous system out. So I think it's a great environment to learn how to lower your heart rate and get in touch with the cues with your body to bring your heart rate down naturally in a stressful environment. So to me, that's that's, the top thing that by doing this practice consistently, that will be the biggest tangible benefit you'll see in your life.
Mhm.
For me, it's a mood elevator. Like I said, I lethargic in the morning, get into the plunge, I'm lit. Like I'm ready to go. I know what I want to get into.
Mhm.
I know like the phone call I want to go tackle. I feel like the apps almost got turned off, but I'm like fully charged. Like
Mhm.
my phone is like all that. I'm clear into what I want to go do.
Mhm.
Um, so mood elevator, nervous system regulation, um, muscle recovery. I'm not like I work out. That's a big part of my life, but I'm not a professional.
Mhm.
So it just kind of keeps me going. My
Mhm.
body, I don't have for the level I've worked out, I don't have any real major injuries. It keeps me, it manages my body. So those to me are like my favorite that are consistently there.
Mhm.
But then with it, it's like I love hearing everyone else's because like we hear it depends on age, depends on some of the coolest ones have been like coming out of COVID. Like we've seen people with like COVID long haul that get our unit and they have these symptoms that are just like they've turned it, they've tried every medicinal pharmaceutical thing.
Mhm.
They tried it all. And I remember we had one recently, the guy got it, he emails us and he's sending us all his Whoop results. He's like, I'm in the green. He's like, you guys don't understand. Like, I have been like red scores since I had COVID, which was like a year ago. And he comes out of it. And so just to see that benefit, which is so off my radar,
Mhm.
but to see that happening for him. So it seems to be kind of this, it's really like activating each person's body a little differently to what they need.
Mhm.
Be curious to hear your favorite benefits.
Yeah, so I would say one of my favorite things that I've noticed is it's increasing my self-love. It
Mm.
is increasing my self-fortitude and, being a professional athlete, I've had to build a lot of that, but not having an active way to practice that in my life or a tangible way to practice it in my life in a while now, it's given me that back and it's building this like resiliency, this execution that I really feel like, it's like every single time that I overcome the feelings of not wanting to do it, making myself do it anyways, it's like that translates into my business and into every other area of my life where I really lessen the time between thinking about doing something and taking action and executing and completing it, and that's really helping me a lot. And another benefit that I wanted to share, which is actually someone that I know, and I'm not going to throw them under the bus because I didn't ask to share, but someone that I know, he has a very large family. He's been plunging, and this is a benefit that I would never think of. But normally, when his family comes over, he will hang out for a second, smile, do the thumbs up thing, and then he like disappears, right? And he was like, I've been plunging for the last 15 days or so. And he was like, all of a sudden, a bunch of family came over and we were talking. And then he goes, before I knew it, it was the end of the night. I was still with them. I actually wanted to be there. I never wanted to leave. And then we hugged and like I was there the whole time. And then he called me like a few days later and he goes, it happened again. And so we don't really know exactly why, but that's been him like his whole life, where I don't know if it's this like social anxiety or this stress or whatever it is. The cold plunge is actually like reversing that completely to where he's like, I'm not forcing myself to stay out here. I'm not forcing myself to have conversation. I actually enjoy being here and I enjoy conversating with everyone, which is just amazing. Imagine like this family having this person back and being able to create those, have those conversations and create deeper connections. And it's a benefit I never would have kind of saw coming from the cold plunge.
I love hearing that. I mean, that I've heard that from in that vein. I've heard fathers, writing into us saying, I'm a better husband. I'm a
Mhm.
better father. I've heard the big one is like the parent child time, like mothers and fathers getting to spend time with their kids in very intentional ways, which
Mhm.
was not why no one has bought the plunge or wanting a plunge for that reason. And that has been one of the biggest things that people have discussed
Mhm.
with us of like our family time is so much more intentional now. We
Wow.
come together and we all get in the plunge together. We do this hard thing.
Wow.
We cheer each other on. We, support each other and they come out and And you know it, you come out, I mean, what, you maybe spend 15, 20 minutes doing that for a family of four, and everyone's feeling juiced. It's
Yeah.
like
Oh my
everyone's
gosh.
like, and I just, that's the thing I go back to, is like, it just is this, it's a very, it's a thing, the art, the return on it, the
Mhm.
time that you could spend and get that feeling afterward. It's just, I'm all for all the things to make us happier and more fulfilled, and a lot of those practices. And I think that's what I'm most excited about with cold plunging, is that the time that you can spend into it and getting that return is just second to none. And that's something I'm really excited on with the mental health side of it, is
Mhm.
with someone that's suffering from depression or going through, it's like the it, the next logical step may be obvious for other people, but when you're depressed, it's like that, there's no step you could, like, that is so far beyond to do, get into the gym for 60 minutes or do this. And I still get it, cold plunging is a big step to take, but man, if you can get in there for 60 seconds, you might open up a new little window of creating a little more momentum in one new direction. And you,
Wow.
you get that step, and that's the momentum that, ultimately can get us out of these
Mhm.
depressed states. And if
Mhm.
we, combat that. So I think that's a huge, New York Times had an article recently on the mental health side of cold plunging, which was
Mhm.
awesome to see it strictly on that. And I think that's a huge frontier that we're going to get into that hasn't really been discussed yet.
Oh my gosh, I love that you mentioned that, because even myself, when I look at the cold plunge, even look at people using the cold plunge, I definitely view it as this like thing for athletes or people that take themselves like really seriously or whatever, right? Whereas I have literally experienced the mental clarity and the happiness that I feel after a plunge. I feel drastically different after the plunge than before. So I can only imagine somebody that is really struggling with their mental health, their anxiety, depression, fear, whatever it is, what kind of impact that could have on their lives. And, I've never thought about it in the terms of, ROI, but you're right. When I think about it, I'm like, I have to work out for probably at least like 60 minutes. If I meditate, usually at least 10 minutes, right?
Mm.
But probably longer. Sometimes it doesn't even really get me into stillness, and it definitely doesn't have the same drastic effect. So it's interesting that you put it that way, because I'm a very like logical thinker, and that makes so much sense to my brain. I'm like, this is the shortest time with the best return. Why would I not do this? So, okay, we kind of mentioned it a little bit, but you strongly believe in the power in doing hard things just
Mm.
in life. So explain a little bit about why you believe in that.
I believe that, I think our world is naturally, and like, I'm the biggest of comforts. I love comforts. It's
Mhm.
just the natural gravity, I think, of being a human, is we gravitate towards comfortable things. I love a nice warm home. I
Mhm.
love, yeah, it's what's natural to us, I think, to do that. So I think to have what I like to call guardrails around my life, that I'm doing hard things to blend in with this comfortable life that ultimately I do lead.
Mhm.
Um, Cold plunging is one of them. Working out is one of them. I think having surrounded, like, ideally, if you have good friends around you that are challenging your thoughts and beliefs, that's a really good one. Psychedelics for me has been an instrumental part. I've been very outspoken of that in my life. It has been, arguably for me, probably the largest space that I go into and really get challenged with myself and get,
Mhm.
faced with blind spots or belief systems or whatever with myself.
Mhm.
So it's, I think, in this modern world, especially from probably most of this audience, US based, Western world, we have a lot of comforts, which is
Mhm.
awesome. And I love it. And I'm right there with everyone. I like it. And man, you got to balance that.
Mhm.
And there's, cold plunge is a natural form. I think, again, it's a very easy one to have for a time
Mhm.
standpoint and be able to do the discomfort. So I think it's essential. I think it's, from a physical standpoint, our bodies are naturally, they want to atrophy, like they will atrophy unless we're pushing them in a different direction.
Mhm.
um our minds are same way. We're very malleable people.
Mhm.
And so whatever we, if the input is constant and easy for us, then that's what we're going to get. That's what we're going to become.
Mhm.
Um, so I think it's, to me, it's a very very straightforward equation that
Yeah.
we have to balance, you know, challenging, difficult things in this modern Western world that we live in.
I agree with that. And I think that when you do that, you actually get to experience the fullness and the fulfillment that life actually offers. I think when people give into the comforts and they live a life that is satisfactory or average, or it's just something that is simply not truly their highest potential, I don't really believe that they're ever fully alive. I think that there's two versions of us, right? There's this like highest version of ourselves, and then there is the average version of ourselves, the one that wants to stay safe and stay comfortable. And that one likes to stay in where it already knows what it's already comfortable with, right? And I think you either have two options in life. You can either choose to evolve or you die. And you don't physically die, but the highest version of you dies, right? And every single day that you're choosing this lesser option of yourself, that highest version of you is dying inside. And I think the way that you step into that is by breaking free from the comforts, choosing the hard option, and getting to fully be alive. And that's the thing, is I feel like life is so short. Why not live it fully alive? And when you're fully alive, it means you're going to experience pain. You're going to experience hardship. You're going to experience fear and not knowing if something's going to work out. But if you die tomorrow, like, what would you rather do? Live life how you've always known it, or chase the more, chase what could be, chase that highest version of you? So I think this is a really important concept that I hope people can grasp, because I also believe there's power in doing the hard thing. You mentioned it briefly about psychedelics, but how has psychedelics helped grow you and helped in your personal development journey? What are some of the tangible takeaways that you've had, whether it be like self-awareness or assessment? You know, how has that helped you grow as a person?
Man, so many different ways. I mean, it's been, mind, body, spirit across the board, very different times with the different type of psychedelic I'm working with, but it's been, it's the constant. Again, I call it the guardrail. It's this space I get to go into where it's just radical honesty with myself, and I can't, things I get to look under the hood that maybe some things I am aware of, and I get a deeper look into, and some things are just subconscious that that are really running the show, which is probably, you know, stat to this, but I think it's 99% of what we do is some subconscious behavior that we're just not aware of. And it's, on a tangent, I think it's incredible that have created this world where we can coexist to some level, and where we're really these creatures that are working off of subconscious systems. And psychedelics are a space that it's just for a moment in time, it opens the window that I get to go look in and get a deep look into these. And so, it's also found I grew up in a Christian household growing up. And, so I had lot of religious dynamics for me that, was amazing, but it was also like, I had to weave through some like personal, what are my beliefs? Like actually get used to my beliefs of like, what is it for me? And and it was for me, it wasn't like what I had been told. It actually, which in turn brought so much more peace to my life. And, in turn has made me so much more, I consider myself a spiritual person. So it's been, it's a deeper, it cracks me open into the ways that I become a little, I guess, numb to the world. Like, I get closer to my family. It's always like, I think the core of it a lot is my parent dynamics that come into it, and where I have viewed them, how they raised me, and really understanding those patterns and those behaviors. And so it's an endless stream, and it blows me away every time I work with one of those substances of just like, man, there's a lot what I don't know that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and yeah, I don't know if you have much experience with them, but yeah, be curious to hear your
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. No, I think it's very true in the sense that there's a lot that we don't know that we're operating from. Oftentimes, a lot of our responses to things, they are what we've been programmed to do since we were a young child. And until you become aware of them, it's really hard to break free from those patterns. So, I mean, I remember even just like in a regular, old school therapy session, my therapist being like, "Oh, this is what you do." And he looks at me and I go, "Okay." He goes, "That's not good." I was like, "Really? Why?" He goes, "Oh God," and starts to explain. And once you're aware to it, though, I think there's so much power in that, because when you're aware, now you're empowered to choose a different way to get a different result, right? oftentimes people are repeating same patterns that either they grew up with, they witnessed, the environments that they were in, and it's hard to recognize that, and it's hard to even know what is healthy and what is unhealthy until
Totally.
you're told, or until you're shown a healthy way, right? It's like people that have never experienced healthy love, they think that something that is, borderline abusive, they think that that's just what it is, and you don't know until you know differently. So I think it is important, whichever way, whichever modality people decide to go down, I think it's important to, one, keep trying something, keep trying different modalities till you find what works for you. But two, just seek to gain that next level of self-awareness, because I think self-awareness is the first step and is so key and so crucial to you being able to have the opportunity to grow. Because if you aren't self-aware, how are you going to be able to make progress in that area of your life?
Totally. And I think it's a never ending piece. I mean, it's,
Mm-hmm.
our levels of self-awareness are, that is an infinite sphere that
Mm-hmm.
is always unfolding. And which is very humbling, because it's like the moment I think I'm something,
Mm-hmm.
that egoic thought of like, oh, you know something about something. It's like, man, like these special moments when I get a taste, like the actual magnitude of the infinite. And it's
Yes.
like that is, it's very, again, it's humbling. It's like, I get to acknowledge myself for a moment, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
don't get complacent here, and
Yeah.
don't like that's just a perspective that you have. And it really comes down to, I think, us as humans, like we're a very unique creature. We're just a perspective creature. Like we have this conscious form, and that's really what it comes down to. And we really can make every moment whatever we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's, I had a really bad accident X years ago, and I speak about this a lot, but it was like one of the greatest gifts that I knew it in the moment, and I knew it at that moment, but I just chose to believe that. And it has opened up my whole career into being into holistic health, and, you know, getting into floating and all the things that it led me to. And then I've had moments where I decide to view it negatively, and it totally becomes this negative, not that experience, but another experience, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's um, I, at times I think breakups are like this. Like breakups are such a negative experience, and they're hard, and they're grieving, and there is a loss to it, but they're also this opening into a whole new realm of yourself. And it's how we view that moment. And it's really a choice, and it's hard. Sometimes we want to make it that was a bad experience, but it's really whatever we want to label that experience will be that experience.
I think that's such crucial perspective, because you can literally go through the same experience, but if you choose to have two different perspectives about it, your experience with that thing will be completely different. So if you do have a bad experience, or like a bad breakup in the example you gave, it's like, what if you chose to have the heart posture that this is what I needed for my spiritual growth and my spiritual development? I've really come into this awareness that we are spiritual beings having this human experience. And
Mm.
for me, that really shapes a lot of my perspective of the things that I go through. And I realize that I'm going to keep getting certain lessons in my life until I've learned and elevated from that lesson. So now when I go through something, especially something that I would have never chosen, or, I wouldn't have signed up on the roster to go through this one experience. Now I'm like,
Totally.
okay, what led me there? What were those decisions? What kind of turns did I make? Because I feel like when we are in alignment with our soul, I feel like we're going down this path, and I feel that there are some times that we go out of alignment, even with just one small decision, right? But that one small decision actually makes us go all the way left, and we think we keep going straight, but now we're actually on a totally different trajectory. And you getting to this crucial point of this really difficult experience, it is meant to be difficult because it has to wake you up to the fact that you're on the wrong path, in order to get
Totally.
you back into alignment. So I think it's important to really choose what perspective you're going to have, because if you're going through the hard thing, you're going to go through it anyways. So why not go through it and choose to learn and grow from it, versus like kick rocks while you're there?
Yeah, I'm curious how you, and I preface it with, yeah, like the challenge to me is the trigger of something I need to grow somewhere. Like if it was easy all the time, there's not growth there. It's fun. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's an awesome part of life. And then when I'm challenged and I get annoyed or frustrated or angry, that's okay, cool. There's a lesson here.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are your steps to see that pattern more quickly, or to see when that's happening, to actually have that perspective?
I think obviously the first step is self-awareness. So what's going on, right? Let's say that it's an interaction with somebody at work or in a relationship, right? And you come up and you get upset, you feel that like triggered moment. For me, it's just like taking that space to assess like what's really going on here. Usually it's something much deeper than the surface level. Oftentimes it's not about the fact that you left the door open or, you didn't do this in the business, but it's something deeper that's going on. And so for me, stillness and time alone and time to really center myself and check in with myself spiritually. And for me, it's like conversations with God, right? So it's like, what's really going on here? Like, where's my heart in this? And then looking at, is this a pattern? Because if this is a pattern in my life, guess what the common denominator is? Me, right?
Yeah.
There was a certain pattern that I recognized recently where, I was having quite a lot of things going on in every single area of life. And I instantly was like, damn it, man, I'm the common denominator. What's going on? And I was able to really track it back. And this is the piece that is crucial and I think really difficult for people. And it's taking personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is not saying that everything here is my responsibility. It's simply owning up to my part in this is X, and I take full ownership for that. And this is how I'm going to change things moving forward. This is how I'm going to produce a different result, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think people, for whatever reason, it's like they have this perception that they have to be perfect or that they never mess up. And they wouldn't just like outright tell you I'm perfect, but that's essentially what you're saying when you don't take ownership and responsibility for your part in something, in something like a relationship. Oftentimes both parties have a fault, right? But everyone's so busy justifying, giving excuses, pointing the finger that they never just take responsibility for their part. Even if your part was 10%, you taking ownership of that and responsibility for that will bring so much freedom and so much togetherness that will never come from you telling the person all the reasons why it's not your fault, all the reasons why it's justified why you did what you did, right? Where some people are really just looking for you to like be in it with them and be like, you know what, like, I'm sorry you feel this way. This was my part. I'm sorry for that. I apologize for that, right? And so for me, not repeating these patterns is taking that ownership and turning it into a different action. And that's what's key with breaking the patterns, right? Is I got to choose differently. I got to act differently. I have to respond differently. And creating this new pattern in your life, this healthy habit, it just takes practice, repetition, and consistency, which really is pretty easy if you just do it. But a lot of people, they struggle to practice that consistency, which is why I think it's important to have these tangible things in your life that teach you consistency, whether it be I'm going to show up for my workout every single day at 8 a.m. or I'm going to cold plunge every day for 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think you nailed it. It's like the action that comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're so damn hard on ourselves when like the personal responsibility, we're hard on ourselves, whether it's like we don't want to look at it or we have like really negative self-talk with it. We get so caught up into the action that already took place as opposed to the action that we want to have come out of it. And I think that's, it's the biggest thing when, a friend makes a mistake. It's like, yeah, apology's great, but it's like, no, then these other steps that I'm going to do to change this action moving forward. It's like, oh, cool. Now we're, and vice versa. Like when I get to come forward, it's like, I think you nailed it. It's the action coming out of it. Like,
Yeah, because, words are important. And I think intention is also important, but those things don't matter without different action, right? So making the words, the intention, and the action all align, man, you will gain so much respect, so much trust from other people. So, and I want to echo what you were saying there about how sometimes people get stuck in this shame. They shame themselves. Oftentimes we are harder on ourselves than anyone else is on us. So recognizing when you are in that moment of shame and saying, no, shame doesn't help me. Shame doesn't get me to where I want to be. It actually helps me repeat the cycle. It's like binge eating. A lot of people struggle with binge eating. And oftentimes it's because they keep repeating this cycle of their binging and then they shame themselves and they feel so guilty and bad about it. It actually encourages them to do it again. So you have to go to war against shame and actually say, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to get out of my head, out of my thoughts and into action. Action and execution is king. If you can do that, you will take one step away from the action that is undesirable and another step towards the action that truly is desirable, which I feel is the way to change your life. People think they have to do these crazy, massive life changes, like move or sign up for this thing. And in reality, your life changes. It comes down to the small moments. You know, what are you doing in the small moments? And what are you choosing? You know, you always have this like green button and red button in front of you. It's like your highest version of yourself and the death of your version, or the death of yourself, the highest version, right? Every day with every decision you make, whether it's a meal, it's the cold plunge, it's the workout, are you choosing the red or the green? And once you write down every single day how many red buttons you pressed, you'll know exactly why you are where you're at. Or conversely, you know, the green. So yeah, decisions and action, I think, is so crucial.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, okay. I wanted to kind of end the show here by looking at a few ways that you like to enjoy your life. Enjoyment of life is important, right? We only get one life. We're living this human experience, so why not enjoy it? What are a few ways that you like to enjoy your life?
I like to enjoy my life. I love nature. I
Mm-hmm.
live in a beautiful spot in Northern California that I'm out as much as I can in the canyons and the trails and doing that. So I think that goes, I feel great doing it. And I know there's like a deeper level taking place of just, we are nature, and to be actually immersed into it is um, huge for me. Travel has been a key part of my whole life. Into enjoying it, it's the quickest perspective shift I can get, also in like getting into a different culture, getting into a different way of life. um, those are massive for me. I think other I love being around I just love being around interesting people. Like I recently started a podcast strictly for that sense. Like I just like here I'm kind of being interviewed,
Mm-hmm.
but I love the other side. I'm just like, how did you get here? Like
Yeah.
what is your story? So like that's a big thing for me. Like I really enjoy talking to people. I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy just hearing what people are up to. Um, doing that, and then um yeah, pretty simple outside of that. I like to work out. I
Mm-hmm.
like to um breath work and
Mm-hmm.
meditation, and it's just kind of the things that doing that consistently and over time.
I think that's cool because what I hear is that you've actually kind of created your life in a way where you're enjoying your life on the daily. It's like you don't have these destinations like, oh, I have a trip in 3 months that I can look forward to, right? Or, you know, it's not based on where you're getting, but it's actually like it sounds like it's a daily practice of your life, right? The workout, the breath work, the cold plunge. Even though the cold plunge is not always fun, it's like your daily ingredients help you to enjoy your life. And I think it's really important for people to realize that even if it's 2 small things a day that they can do to help them enjoy their life, it's important to put those into practice now and not wait until you reach this goal of graduating school, of opening the business, of getting married, right? Like all these things may be a little whiles away. So why not enjoy life now? So, all
Yeah,
right.
I think, I mean, just to that point, it's like the
Mm-hmm.
state of me. It's like I really do believe, and I'm not preaching that I'm in this space all the time, but it's something I strive for. It's like it's all right in front of us. Like it truly is. Like happiness is, and it sounds cliche and it sounds silly, but it's like really whatever moment we want to make out of the thing right in front of us is right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I really live by. And
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, these little things. It's like, how do I get my state of being just to be accepting of what is literally in front of me right now?
Yeah, that's so good. All right, we're going to end the show there. Ryan, thank you so much for being on today.
Awesome. It was an awesome conversation. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Everybody, you know the drill. If you enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor, share the podcast with a friend. You can text it to them, share it on your stories. And if you guys are interested in checking out the Cold Plunge, of course, I have Ryan as well as the Cold Plunge linked down below. And I do have a discount code for you guys. It's my full name, Emily Hayden. Just enter that at checkout. You'll get $150 off and you can start your plunge journey. But don't forget, you can always start it today just with something as simple as a cold shower. So I hope that you guys will join us. We're doing a 30-day cold plunge challenge within the Cold Plunge company. But I hope that whether you have one or not, or you just use your shower or your bathtub full of cold water, that you'll join us and get to reap the benefits from doing something hard every single day. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode of Evolve with Emily.